Learning English can feel like a chore until you discover stories. Stories make grammar fun, vocabulary memorable, and language natural. When you follow an adventure, your brain picks up the patterns without you even noticing. That's the secret power of storytelling. It's not about memorizing, it's about experiencing. Before we begin, make sure to like this video, subscribe to TrueTalk, and hit the notification bell. We share real, funny, and sometimes embarrassing stories that help you learn English the natural way, without boring lessons or long explanations. Let's get into this one. Today's story is about a guy named Theo who went to London, saw something unexpected near Buckingham Palace, and made a hilarious mistake he'll never forget. Theo had dreamed of visiting London since he was a teenager. He had imagined the red double-decker buses, the rainy weather, and of course, the royal guards. He had seen them in movies, tall, serious men with big black hats, standing perfectly still outside Buckingham Palace. On his second day in the city, Theo woke up early, had a full English breakfast, and headed straight to see the palace. The crowd was already building. Tourists gathered behind the black and gold fences, taking pictures and waiting for the famous changing of the guard ceremony. Theo moved through the crowd until he found a good spot. He leaned forward to get a closer look. The palace itself was impressive, grand and elegant, with its massive gates and royal flags. But Theo's eyes were fixed on one thing, a guard standing inside the fence, completely motionless. He was tall and dressed exactly as Theo expected, red coat, shiny buttons, tall bearskin hat. He looked unreal. Theo stared at him for several minutes, amazed at how perfectly still he was. Theo stepped back from the crowd and noticed another man in the same uniform standing near the entrance to a small side courtyard, but this one was much closer to where tourists were walking. No gate between them. Just a short rope barrier. He wasn't standing like the others, though. He was leaning slightly, one hand resting on the wall behind him. Theo walked up slowly, curious. The man didn't move. His face was straight, serious, and completely still. That's when it hit Theo. This must be a wax figure. He had heard that some parts of London had realistic wax statues outside museums or used for photo opportunities. Maybe this was one of them. He looked around. No one else seemed to notice. He saw a couple taking a selfie nearby, but they didn't even glance at the guard. Theo thought this was his chance. He stepped over the rope. Just one photo, he thought. He leaned in, lifted his phone, and moved closer to the statue. He turned his body slightly and raised his camera to get the best angle. Then, without warning, the wax figure spoke. "Please step back, sir." Theo jumped back so fast he nearly dropped his phone. The guard turned his head slightly, eyes still forward, and repeated, "Step behind the rope." Theo's face turned red. He mumbled something and stepped away, his heart racing. He glanced around, hoping no one had noticed. But a few people had. A couple nearby giggled quietly. A little girl pointed and whispered something to her dad. Theo walked quickly toward the other side of the courtyard, pretending to look at the palace. His hands were shaking from surprise and a little embarrassment. He had just tried to take a photo with a living human being, thinking it was a statue. He stood there for a few more minutes, trying to play it cool, then quietly left the palace grounds and headed for the nearest coffee shop. He ordered a tea, sat by the window, and replayed the moment in his head again and again. First, he laughed quietly to himself. Then he shook his head. Then he laughed again. Later that evening, he told the story to some other travelers at his hostel. One of them had done something similar in Berlin. Another had waved at what he thought was a mannequin, only to find it was a real man working in a shop window. That made Theo feel better. He wasn't the only one. But the memory stayed with him. Every time someone mentioned London, Theo would smile and say, "You know, I once confused a royal guard for a wax figure." And here's the magic of it. While you were following Theo's funny mistake, you were also learning English. You saw natural phrases like stepped over the rope, played it cool, pretending to look, and laughed quietly to himself. These expressions aren't from textbooks. They're from real situations, and now they live in your memory because they're part of a story. That's why we do this. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the like button, subscribe to TrueTalk, and ring the bell for more real stories that teach you real English. And now, it's your turn. Have you ever made a funny mistake while traveling? Did you ever confuse a real person for something else? Share your story in the comments below. We'd love to read it, and who knows, it might become our next episode.